I remember the exact moment my marriage cracked. Not shattered, not exploded. Just cracked. Like a thin line across glass that you don't notice until the light hits it the wrong way. It was a Thursday night in early October. Cold air drifted through the open kitchen window of our small house in the suburbs of Portland. The kind of quiet neighborhood where kids rode bikes until sunset and neighbors waved when they drove by. Emily was standing at the counter, cutting strawberries. She always cut fruit too carefully. Perfect slices, perfect angles, like the strawberries were part of some tiny art project. I was sitting at the table scrolling through emails from work, half listening to the soft music playing from the speaker. Something acoustic, something calm. Our life had been calm for years. 7 years of marriage. 9 years together. We had just started talking seriously about kids. And then she said it. Not in anger. Not in fear. Just casually. "Can I ask you something weird?" I looked up from my laptop and smiled. Emily asked weird questions all the time. "What kind of weird?" I asked. She didn't look at me. She kept slicing strawberries. "I mean, promise you won't get mad." That should have been my first warning. But I laughed. You're acting like you're about to confess a crime." A small smile appeared on her lips. "Maybe I am." The knife tapped softly against the cutting board. Tap, tap, tap. Then she finally turned and looked at me. Her brown eyes were calm. Too calm. "What if, before we have kids," she said slowly, "I had just one night?" I frowned. "One night doing what?" She hesitated. Just for a second. And then she said it. "One night where I cheat." The room went silent. Not dramatic silent. Just empty. The music kept playing, the fridge hummed quietly, a car drove past outside. But everything inside my chest froze. I actually laughed. A confused, awkward laugh. "Okay," I said, "very funny." She didn't laugh back. Emily leaned against the counter, arms folded. "I'm serious." That was the moment the crack appeared. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. It never came. "You're joking," I said. "I'm not." My brain struggled to process the sentence. It felt like someone had spoken in a language I almost understood, but not quite. "You want permission to cheat." She nodded slowly. "Just once." I pushed my laptop aside. "Emily, what the hell are you talking about?" She sighed softly, like she had rehearsed this conversation 100 times in her head. "It's not what you think." I stood up from the table. "That's literally exactly what I think." She rubbed her temples. "Please just listen." I crossed my arms. "Explain how this isn't insane." Emily walked over to the table and sat across from me. Her voice dropped to a softer tone. "You know how we've been talking about kids?" "Yeah." "And how once we do that, everything changes." I didn't respond. She continued. "I mean really changes. No freedom, no spontaneity, just responsibility forever. That's called being parents." "I know." She took a deep breath. "I just feel like, before that happens, I want one last moment of complete freedom." The word freedom echoed in my head. "Freedom," I repeated. She nodded. "One night where I do something crazy, something I'll never do again." My jaw tightened. "And that crazy thing is cheating on your husband." It wouldn't mean anything. The sentence hit me harder than the original request. Wouldn't mean anything. I leaned back in my chair and stared at her. "You're asking me to let another guy sleep with my wife. Just one time. And you think that's normal?" "It's honest." I laughed again. But this time it sounded bitter. "Honest?" "Yes." She leaned forward, her voice suddenly more intense. "People cheat all the time, Mark." I hated when she used my name like that. Like she was trying to sound reasonable. "At least I'm asking instead of lying." That doesn't make it better. It kind of does. My hands clenched on the table. "So who is he?" Emily blinked. "What?" "You clearly have someone in mind." No, I don't. Bullshit. Her eyes narrowed slightly. I said I don't. I studied her face carefully. We'd been together almost a decade. I knew her tells. The way her jaw tightened when she was hiding something. The way her eyes shifted slightly to the left. And right now, they shifted. Just a little. There is someone, I said quietly. She looked down at the table. That's not the point. It's exactly the point. Silence stretched between us. Outside, a dog barked somewhere down the street. Emily finally spoke again. It's just a fantasy. A fantasy with a real person. She didn't answer. That told me everything. Something cold settled into my chest. Have you already been talking to him? No. Another lie. This one was easier to hear. I rubbed my face slowly. Emily, do you even hear yourself? Yes. You're asking your husband if you can go sleep with another man before we start a family. Her voice softened again. I'm asking for honesty. I leaned forward, staring directly into her eyes. No. She blinked. What? The answer is no. Simple. Clear. Final. For a moment, I thought that was the end of it. But Emily's expression didn't change. She just sat there. Quiet. Thinking. And then she said something that made my stomach drop. What if it's something I need to do? The words felt heavier this time. Need. Not want. Need. I felt a strange calm wash over me. The kind of calm that comes right before something breaks. So let me get this straight, I said slowly. You need to cheat on me. Just once. Before we have kids. Yes. And then everything goes back to normal. That's the idea. I stared at her for a long time. Really looked at the woman I married. The woman I thought I knew better than anyone. And suddenly, I realized something terrifying. She had been thinking about this for a long time. Weeks. Maybe months. Maybe longer. Which meant something else too. This conversation wasn't the beginning. It was the end of something. And Emily had already decided how she wanted it to end. She just didn't know yet. That I had already started thinking about how it would end too. I didn't yell. That's the strange part people never believe when I tell this story. No shouting. No dramatic scene. No glass breaking against the wall. Just silence. I leaned back in my chair and studied my wife like I was seeing her for the first time. Emily had always been beautiful in a quiet way. Long dark hair, soft brown eyes, the kind of smile that made strangers trust her instantly. For 9 years, that smile had belonged to me. Now I wondered if it ever really had. So, I said slowly, this is something you need to do. Emily nodded, cautious now, like she realized she had stepped onto thin ice. I just don't want regrets later. Regrets? Yes. Her fingers traced small circles on the table. What if we have kids and I spend the rest of my life wondering what it would have been like? I stared at her. You're worried about missing out on cheating. She winced. When you say it like that, that's exactly what it is. She sighed. Mark, you're twisting my words. No, I said quietly, I'm clarifying them. She looked frustrated now. You're acting like I'm asking to leave you. You might as well be. That's not true. Then explain how this works. She hesitated. I go out one night, I live out a fantasy, and then it's done. And you come home like nothing happened. Yes. And I'm supposed to just forget it. You wouldn't forget it. She said it gently. But you'd know I chose to come back. I almost laughed again. You already chose to come back, you're married. Her eyes hardened slightly. You're missing the point. No, I said, I think I'm finally seeing it. Silence filled the kitchen again. Emily watched me carefully. Are you angry? I considered that. Angry wasn't the right word. Anger is loud, hot, explosive. What I felt was colder than that. I'm thinking, I said. She leaned forward. About what? About how long you've been planning this. Her face froze for half a second. There it was again. That tiny crack in her expression. I haven't been planning anything. You brought it up too calmly. That's because I've thought about it. Exactly. Her eyes dropped to the table. I pushed further. So who is he? She didn't answer. Emily. It doesn't matter. It matters to me. She sighed. It's just someone I met. My chest tightened. Where? At the gym. Of course. There's always a gym guy. How long? It wasn't like that. How's long? She hesitated. A few months. A few months. That sentence echoed inside my head like a gunshot. A few months, I repeated slowly. We only talked. You only talked. Yes. About cheating on your husband. Her voice sharpened. That's not fair. You're right, I said quietly. It's not. She leaned forward again. He just made me realize something. And what's that? That I'm still young. I stared at her. You're 32, Emily, not 80. That's not what I mean. Then explain it. She rubbed her arms nervously. He flirts with me. That must be thrilling. It reminds me what it feels like to be wanted. The words landed like a punch. Are you serious right now? You've been distant lately. I've been working. Exactly. So now the guy doing bicep curls next to you gets rewarded. Stop mocking me. I'm trying to understand. She leaned back in frustration. You're making this ugly. It is ugly. Another silence. The kind where both people realize the conversation has crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. Finally, she spoke again. He's leaving the city soon. That got my attention. What? He's moving to California. And so it would only be once. The logic was almost impressive. You've really thought this through. I told you I have. So what's his name? Emily hesitated. Then she said it. Ryan. Ryan. Of course his name was Ryan. What does Ryan do? He's a physical therapist. I nodded slowly. Sounds like a great guy. Don't do that. Do what? That sarcastic tone. I'm just picturing him. Stop. I leaned forward. Does Ryan know you're married? Yes. And he's okay with that. He said it's my choice. Of course he did. Ryan didn't have a marriage to lose. Ryan didn't have 9 years invested in this house, this life, this future. Ryan just had an opportunity. And what exactly is the fantasy? I asked. Emily's cheeks flushed slightly. That's private. You're asking me to approve it. Details aren't necessary. They are to me. She looked away. That's not the point. Then what is the point? Her voice dropped almost to a whisper. I just want to feel wild one last time. Wild? My wife wanted to feel wild. After 9 years of building a life together. I suddenly felt very tired. I stood up from the table and walked to the sink. Outside, the streetlights had turned on. The neighborhood looked peaceful. Normal. Behind me, Emily spoke softly. Say something. I stared out the window for a long moment. Then I turned around. And something in my expression must have changed. Because Emily suddenly looked nervous. What? She asked. I walked back to the table and sat down. You really want this? She hesitated. Yes. You're sure? Yes. I nodded slowly. Then I said the last thing she expected to hear. Okay. Emily blinked. What? You can have your night. Her eyes widened. Wait, really? Yes. She looked shocked. Relieved. Confused. All I ask, I continued calmly, is one thing. What? That after it happens, we sit down and talk again. That's it. That's it. She searched my face like she was trying to figure out the trap. There's no trap, I said. I just want honesty. A slow smile spread across her face. Thank you. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I promise it won't change anything between us. I squeezed her hand back. And for the first time in the entire conversation, I smiled. Because in that moment, Emily thought she had won. What she didn't realize was that the night she was planning with Ryan was about to become the biggest mistake of her life. The strange thing about betrayal is that it doesn't always feel like a knife in the back. Sometimes it feels quieter than that. Like a slow leak. Something draining out of a relationship while both people pretend the container isn't emptying. After I told Emily she could have her night with Ryan, the house felt different. Not broken. Just staged. Like we were both actors suddenly aware there was an audience. She tried to hide it, but I could see the excitement building in her over the next few days. The way she checked her phone more often. The way she hummed while cooking dinner. The way she smiled at messages she didn't show me. Every little detail confirmed what I already knew. She had been talking to him long before that conversation in the kitchen. Friday night, I came home from work and found Emily sitting on the couch with her laptop open. Wedding photos. Our wedding photos. She was scrolling through them slowly. For a second, something inside me softened. Maybe she felt guilty. Maybe reality had caught up with her. She looked up when I walked in. Hey, she said quietly. Hey. I set my keys on the counter. What are you doing? She turned the laptop toward me. Just remembering. The screen showed a picture of us dancing at our reception. Emily in her white dress. Me in a black suit. Both of us laughing like the world was simple. That was a good day, she said. Yeah. She studied my face carefully. You're being very calm about all this. I told you, I said, I want honesty. I expected you to fight me more. I thought about it. And I realized something. What? You're going to do what you want anyway. She didn't respond to that. Because we both knew it was true. A moment later, she closed the laptop. The night will probably be next weekend. So soon. Ryan leaves in 2 weeks. I nodded. Of course he does. She watched me again. You're really okay. I gave a small shrug. It's your choice. Her shoulders relaxed slightly. Thank you for trusting me. Trust. That word almost made me laugh. But I didn't. Instead, I changed the subject. So where are you meeting him? She hesitated. A hotel downtown. Classy. Marked. What? You said you wouldn't judge. I said you could do it. She looked a little annoyed, but didn't push further. Instead, she stood up and walked toward the bedroom. I'm taking a shower. Okay. The bathroom door closed. Water started running. And that's when I pulled out my phone. Because while Emily thought I had accepted her little fantasy, I had spent the last 3 days preparing for it. I opened a message thread. The contact name read, Ryan Keller. Yes. I had already found him. Turns out physical therapists who flirt with married women tend to have very public social media profiles. Instagram, LinkedIn, even a TikTok account full of gym advice. Finding his number hadn't been difficult either. In fact, Ryan had been surprisingly easy to reach. Our first conversation happened 2 nights earlier. I had sent a simple message. Hey Ryan, you don't know me, but you've been talking to my wife Emily. 3 dots appeared almost immediately. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Finally the reply came. Who is this? I answered honestly. Her husband. There had been a long pause after that. Almost 2 full minutes. Then another message. Look man, I didn't know things were serious between you guys. I stared at the screen. The audacity was almost impressive. So I replied. We've been married 7 years. Another pause. Then, she said you guys were basically roommates. Of course she did. I typed slowly. She asked me if she could spend 1 night with you. This time, the response came instantly. Wait, what? I could practically feel his confusion through the phone. She asked for permission. Another pause. Then the message that confirmed everything I needed to know. Did you say yes? I leaned back in my chair that night, staring at the screen. Ryan wasn't confused. He was hopeful. Excited even. So I gave him the answer he wanted. Yes. 3 dots appeared again. Then, seriously. Seriously. Another pause. Then the message that made me realize exactly who Ryan Keller was. Damn, that's wild. Wild. Same word Emily used. They really were perfect for each other. I typed another message. She said you're leaving for California. Yeah, 2 weeks. Then, I guess, you'll want to make the most of your last night here. He replied with a smirking emoji. Guess so. I stared at that emoji for a long time. Then I wrote one final message. Let's meet. He didn't respond immediately. But 30 seconds later. Why? Because if you're going to sleep with my wife, we should probably talk first. Another long pause. Then, okay. We met the next afternoon at a coffee shop downtown. Ryan looked exactly like I expected. Tall, athletic, perfect hair, the kind of guy who spends more time looking at mirrors than people. He spotted me first and walked over with an awkward half-smile. Mark. Ryan. We shook hands. His grip was strong, but his eyes were nervous. Look, man, he said immediately, I didn't mean to cause problems in your marriage. That's kind of what sleeping with someone's wife does. He winced. Yeah's fair. We sat down. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then Ryan leaned forward. So you're really okay with this? I took a slow sip of coffee. Yes. His eyebrows lifted. Most guys wouldn't be. I'm not most guys. He studied me carefully, trying to figure out if I was unstable. Angry. Dangerous. Finally, he said, Emily told me it's just a fantasy thing. That's what she told me too. She said once you guys have kids, she'll never do anything like this again. I nodded slowly. That's the plan. Ryan leaned back in his chair, clearly relaxing now. Well, I appreciate you being cool about it. Cool. Another interesting word. I finished my coffee and stood up. Just one thing, I said. What? I looked him directly in the eyes. When that night happens, make sure it's unforgettable. Ryan grinned. Oh, I will. I smiled back. Because what neither Emily nor Ryan understood yet was that the night they were planning together was going to be unforgettable for a very different reason. The week leading up to Emily's night of freedom felt surreal. It was like living in a movie where you already know the ending, but the characters keep pretending everything is normal. Emily started putting more effort into her appearance. New dress. New heels. Even a new perfume I had never smelled before. I noticed everything. The small smile she tried to hide when her phone buzzed. The way she locked the screen faster when I walked into the room. The excitement she couldn't quite contain. And strangely, the calmer I became. Wednesday night, we were sitting on the couch watching some random Netflix show neither of us was actually paying attention to. Emily curled her legs under her and glanced at me. So Saturday. I kept my eyes on the TV. Saturday. That's the night. I figured. She hesitated. You're still okay with it? I muted the television and turned toward her. Emily, you've asked me that question like 10 times this week. I just want to be sure. Why? Because it feels weird. Weird. Yeah. You're going to sleep with another man. Weird seems like an appropriate word. She sighed. You promised not to be sarcastic. I promise not to stop you. She crossed her arms slightly. You're making this harder than it needs to be. I raised an eyebrow. For who? For both of us. I studied her face for a moment. Emily, can I ask you something? Okay. If I had asked you for the same thing, would you say yes? The question hit her like cold water. What? If I told you I wanted one night with another woman before we had kids, would you give me permission? She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her silence was the answer. That's what I thought, I said. That's different. How? You're the man. I stared at her. You really just said that out loud. She looked embarrassed but didn't take it back. It's not the same. No, I said quietly. It's exactly the same. The room went quiet again. Finally, she stood up. I'm going to bed. Okay. She paused at the hallway and looked back. I do love you, you know. The sentence hung in the air. I nodded slowly. Good night, Emily. She disappeared into the bedroom. A few minutes later, I heard the shower turn on. And once again, I pulled out my phone. I opened my messages with Ryan. Everything set for Saturday, I typed. The response came almost immediately. Yeah, hotel booked. Which one? The Grand Monarch downtown. Of course. One of the nicest hotels in the city. Emily did always have expensive taste. Room number, I asked. Ryan hesitated longer this time. Then, why? I smiled slightly as I typed. Relax, I told you I'm okay with it. Another pause. Then, 1814. Perfect. I sent one last message. Have fun. Ryan replied with a laughing emoji. I put my phone down and leaned back on the couch. Saturday was only 3 days away. 3 days until Emily's fantasy. 3 days until Ryan got what he thought he wanted. 3 days until the truth hit both of them like a truck. Saturday arrived faster than I expected. Emily spent most of the afternoon getting ready. Hair, makeup, trying on 3 different dresses before settling on a tight black one that hugged her figure. She looked stunning, the kind of stunning that used to make me proud. Now it just felt distant. Around 7 p.m., she walked into the living room where I was sitting. What do you think? She asked, spinning slightly. You look great. She smiled nervously. You're being very calm again. I told you. She stepped closer. If you change your mind, we can stop this. That almost made me laugh. But instead I said, do you want to stop? She hesitated. Just for a moment. Then she shook her head. No. Then you should go. Her eyes searched mine one more time. Are you sure? Yes. She leaned down and kissed my cheek. The same way she had done 1,000 times before leaving the house. I'll be back late, she said softly. I figured. She grabbed her purse and walked to the door. For a moment she stood there. Then she looked back at me. I promise, after tonight everything goes back to normal. I gave a small nod. Drive safe. And just like that, she walked out the door to go cheat on me. The house went silent, but I didn't feel sadness. Or anger. Just focus. I waited exactly 10 minutes. Then I stood up, grabbed my car keys and left the house. The Grand Monarch Hotel glowed against the dark city skyline like something out of a movie. Luxury cars lined the entrance. Valets moving back and forth. People in expensive clothes walking through the glass doors. I parked across the street and checked the time. 8:12 p.m. Emily had texted me earlier that she would meet Ryan at 8:30. Perfect. I walked into the hotel lobby calmly. The marble floors reflected the golden lights above. A pianist played soft music near the bar. Everything felt elegant. Peaceful. Almost romantic. I walked to the front desk. The receptionist smiled politely. Good evening, sir. Evening, I said. I'm here for room 1814. She checked her computer. Are you Mr. Keller? I smiled. No. She looked confused. Then I'm sorry, sir, I can't. I leaned slightly closer. Don't worry, I said calmly. I'm the husband. Her smile vanished instantly. She blinked. I'm sorry. I straightened my jacket. Ryan Keller is meeting my wife there tonight. Her face turned pale. I just came to watch the show. And at that exact moment, the elevator doors behind me opened, and Emily stepped into the lobby. Right next to Ryan, Emily was laughing when the elevator doors opened. That soft, flirty laugh she used when she wanted someone to feel special. I hadn't heard it in a long time. Ryan stepped out beside her, one hand resting casually on the small of her back. They were both smiling. Carefree. Excited. Then Emily looked up and saw me. The smile disappeared instantly. Her entire body froze in the middle of the lobby. Marked. Ryan followed her gaze. His expression changed too. Confusion first. Then recognition. Then pure panic. The lobby suddenly felt very quiet. Emily looked like someone had pulled the floor out from under her. What are you doing here?" she asked. I smiled calmly. I thought I'd come see the fantasy. Ryan's hand slowly slipped away from her back. Man, this isn't what it looks like, he said quickly. I raised an eyebrow. Really? Emily stepped toward me. You said you were okay with this. I am. Then why are you here? Curiosity. Her eyes darted toward the receptionist behind the desk, who was now pretending very hard not to watch the scene unfolding. Mark, we should talk somewhere private. Oh, we will. Ryan looked like he wanted to disappear into the marble floor. Look, man, he said nervously, maybe this isn't a good idea. I turned toward him. You're the one who said you'd make it unforgettable. His face went pale. Emily's head snapped toward him. What? Ryan looked like a deer caught in headlights. Nothing. I chuckled softly. Oh no, you should tell her. Emily stared between us. Tell me what? Ryan swallowed hard. He messaged me. The color drained from Emily's face. You talked to my husband. Yeah, I said calmly. We've had a few chats. Her eyes widened with horror. You told him everything. Ryan looked miserable. I thought you knew. No. She turned back to me, her voice shaking. You've been talking to him behind my back. Funny choice of words, I said. Behind my back is kind of your specialty. A few people in the lobby had started glancing over now. Emily stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. Mark, please don't do this here. Don't do what? Make a scene. I leaned in slightly. You're the one who booked the hotel. Ryan looked like he wanted to run. Maybe I should just go. Emily grabbed his arm quickly. No. Then she stopped herself. The reality of the situation was finally crashing down on her. This wasn't the fantasy she had imagined. Not even close. I looked at both of them for a long moment. Then I reached into my jacket pocket. Emily watched the movement nervously. What are you doing? I pulled out a small envelope. Ryan frowned. What's that? I handed it to Emily. She hesitated before opening it. Inside were several papers. Her eyes scanned the first page. Then the second. Then the third. The color completely disappeared from her face. Mark, she whispered. Ryan leaned closer. What is it? Emily looked like she might faint. It's divorce papers. The word echoed through the lobby. Ryan immediately stepped back. Whoa, hold on. Emily looked up at me, eyes wide with disbelief. You said you were okay with this. I said you could have your night. Her voice cracked. You lied. No, I said calmly. I kept my promise. Tears began forming in her eyes. You're ending our marriage over this. I tilted my head slightly. No. Her hope flickered for half a second. Then I finished the sentence. You ended it when you asked permission to cheat. Silence fell between us. Emily looked completely shattered now. This was just a fantasy. For you. She shook her head desperately. Mark, please, we can fix this. I looked at Ryan. He had already taken 2 steps away from the situation. His hands were raised, slightly like he wanted no part in it. Man, I didn't sign up for this, he muttered. Emily turned toward him in disbelief. Ryan. But he was already backing toward the exit. Good luck with whatever this is. And just like that, Ryan Keller walked out of the Grand Monarch Hotel and disappeared into the night, leaving Emily standing alone in the lobby. Her perfect fantasy partner gone. Her husband standing in front of her, holding the reality she never expected. She looked back at me with tears streaming down her face. Please, she whispered. Don't do this. For the first time that night, my voice softened. Emily. Yes. If you had just talked to me about feeling trapped. She nodded quickly. I know. We could have fixed things. Her eyes filled with desperate hope. Then let's fix them. I shook my head slowly. But you didn't want to fix things. Her lip trembled. You wanted to feel wild. The word hit her like a slap. And tonight, I continued calmly, you got exactly what you wanted. She looked around the lobby. Strangers watching. Whispers starting. Her dream night turning into a public nightmare. This isn't what I meant, she said through tears. I know. I stepped back. The distance between us suddenly felt enormous. I hope it was worth it. Marked. Goodbye, Emily. I turned and walked toward the exit. Behind me, I heard her crying. But I didn't turn around. Because the truth is, that night was unforgettable. Just not for the reasons Emily had imagined.